Hi, welcome to another edition of It's My Life with your host Chaya Srivatsa and my guest. What's the topic for today's talk show? Actually, the beauty of a talk show is you don't need to have a topic at all. If you have a good speaker at the other end and who has a lot of material to share, who is articulate, that's what I look for in my guests actually. Somebody who is articulate, who can speak about just about anything. But of course, my guests and all of them have shared their rich experiences in various aspects of life. That's the beauty of a talk show. There's no nonsense about it. We take up a topic, we go deep into it, we discuss the various aspects of it, and the listener gets a rich experience of either a subject or an idea or just fun too, celebrating life. Documentation. How important it is. We do lots and lots of things. We talk about it, but we do not record it. So what happens is, see, if you look at our scriptures and everything, it all came down word of mouth. Nobody wrote it down. They taught it to the next generation. They talked, that's how the Vedas and they all have come down to us. That's a verbal documentation. But today we have technology available to us, so we can document everything that we do, everything that we say, so that the coming generations can get some gyan out of us. And my guest today makes it her business to document. Like she says, leave a legacy. Leaving money is one thing, but leaving good things that you've done so that it can be emulated, it can inspire, it can give ideas. That's the beauty of documentation. So today, let's discuss everything about how do you document something that you do? How do you document something that you say? Like right now, It's My Life is a documentation of so many women and men doing different things. Let me now introduce you to my guest today. She is Anju M Kadam, a video maker. She didn't want me to specifically say documentary because she does all genres of videos. So I welcome Anju today to tell me all about how she goes about documenting.
Hi, Chaya. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm passionate about messaging. I really am. I think video is a mere tool of distribution of messaging. It could be writing. It could be a blog. It could be photography. It could be video, like we use. We use audio and visual medium to help our clients, to help people who have a message for it to reach out further. But what I've done over the past many years is hone my skill in getting to the crux of the matter, so to speak, and figuring out for people who would like messages to go out, to figure out what is the 1, 2, and 3 important messages that you want to send out, because there's a lot of noise. But getting through that noise, getting through that clutter, coming to the point, it is something that you need help with. It is a thought process. It is an introspective process. It is reflective. And all of that needs to come across, for example, in what I do, video.
Okay.
It's
that
challenging.
Means there are different modes of doing it, but you have chosen to do it in the video mode.
Absolutely.
Like we are doing it in the audio mode.
Absolutely. I would stretch the definition of what I do to communications, really. I help people communicate better. I could well do it on radio if they wanted it. Okay. Perhaps with your help. Yeah. But the whole point is really, what I'm trying to say is the medium is not the message.
Yes.
The Marshall McLuhan, the medium is not the message.
Because there is a saying that medium is the message.
It's not radio, it's not television, it's not your writing, it's not your computer. What do you have to say?
So the content is important.
Content is king. And I think people get a little wayward with their messages because they get carried away with technology.
Okay. You said a lot of noise around.
Yes, I did.
Yes. And when we say noise, it's not just physical noise. It's about an influx of information. You go to Google and you've got YouTube. You've got all kinds of things on technology. So one doesn't really know how do you do this or how do you do that. How does one choose the kind of medium that I want for my documentation?
So here's the thing. Actually, we should really touch upon why documentation before we,
All right.
before we decide which medium is best suited to your type of documentation, really. But why documentation, and why I truly, I'm a big champion of leaving a legacy of the messages that you have, of learning. The world is getting more and more friendly with crowdsourcing. You don't go out and do your own research, for example. A lot of times you learn from other people's research, or you learn from other people's work, or you learn from other people's mistakes. You could do all of that. Are we as a gentry leaving behind messages that people can learn from? And that's what I mean by leaving a legacy. Of course, Microsoft will leave a legacy for their coders and their web designers and all the rest of it. But, that's not the kind of thing that we're touching upon. I'm really more interested in, for example, education. Is education documenting what they do right? Is the pedagogy that they follow? All of that is sort of really sort of, it's in books, or it's in a little white paper somewhere, not being, the light of day is not seen. If photographs have been taken, they've been burnt on a CD. That CD is like deep in someone's drawer, never to be seen. What are we doing with all of this?
Let's go one by one, okay? The oldest form of documentation, books.
True.
Okay?
True.
And books like
writing.
Travel writing,
Yes.
or it could be about any cookery books, okay, documenting all the
Yes.
things that you cook, like Archana Doshi does.
Yeah.
Autobiographies, biographies. I think they're the oldest form of documentation.
They
isn't
are.
it?
I think the oldest form is really the writings on the caves. It's
You're going even back further.
It's really man's deep desire to leave a message behind, and really the crux of it is to tell their story.
Absolutely.
Everyone has a story to tell.
Even on school benches, you have a heart
Absolutely.
drawn, and there is Uday loves Smitha.
Even on the
or
Taj
something.
Mahal now, you have a heart drawn and someone.
In bathrooms.
But that's what I'm saying. Everyone wants to tell a story. How can we tell stories better? How can we tell stories that will be heard? How can we tell stories that are coherent stories that will actually have meaning? All of that is what I do. All of that is what I choose to do. What I spend a lot of time on with my clients, or even if I'm making just a messaging kind of thing. I remember this entire Freedom Park movement that we had in Bangalore, for example. I had gone, of my own free will, and gone and done a lot of shooting there. And I just put it into messaging saying, whether you agree, you don't agree, now's the time to speak up.
Yeah. So Freedom Park is known for a place where you protest and you speak up.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very beautiful place to go for a picnic,
It
isn't it?
really is.
Okay, Anju, now let me go back. I want you to document verbally now. How did you start? Where did you do your schooling and everything? Because it's my life.
Gosh,
Yeah.
all right. It's a long story, Chaya, I warn you.
It's okay, we have time.
I'm a Bombaya girl.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually a Haryanvi, if that matters at all. But I grew up in Bombay. I call myself Bombaya, and now I'm Bangalore.
Okay.
These have been my two longest stay homes, really, via Boston and then back. But I grew up in Bombay. I went to a Parsi school in Bombay. It's called Avabai Petit School in Bandra. That's where it used to be a boarding school and a day scholar school. Gorgeous, gorgeous school. It's now 100 years old. We just had a centenary last year, in fact. And when I see the schools today, I realize how lucky I've been, because it was one of those 60-acre kind of schools where
lot of space.
It was a Parsi trust. You can imagine. So we had a hockey field, we had this field,
In
we had
Bombay.
that field
In
in Bombay.
Bombay.
Exactly.
That's a luxury.
And my husband, who I met, of course, years and years later, says, I went to school in one building. I really do realize, and I have a feeling all of what happens to you makes you the person you are, and I'm actually grateful for that kind of open view kind of school that we had. Very traditional learning, very regular, conventional school otherwise, 60 kids in a class. And after that, I went on to do my BA and my post-graduation, my MA in International Trade and Econometrics. Yeah, don't look so puzzled.
Yeah,
Your viewers can't see the puzzled look on your
Yeah.
face, so I have to say it on radio.
I look puzzled because it's not normally a subject a woman would take. I'm sorry, I'm stereotyping it, but
Economics interested me enough.
Okay.
I think otherwise I would have done psychology or literature, really.
that's a normal thing.
Yeah, but economics interested me enough. I also had peer pressure. My older sister, by 3 years, was doing economics, and she is a whiz at everything she does.
Okay.
So, and I'm the youngest, and there was no hope for me.
Unless you also did economics.
So I decided I'm going to prove a point, and I did that. I have to say, even though I was very, very clear post my graduation that I wanted to do something in media and journalism, I remember talking to my mum, and my mum said, "Beta, you know, everybody in the family has done at least a PhD.
Oh,
You must do at least an MA.
And then make films.
Yeah. So I have to say, the only reason that I did my MA was my mother.
Please her. Yeah.
Really. I don't regret it.
Yeah, that's okay.
At all.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm talking about then. When I look at it from now, I don't regret it at all because it gave me a far more nuanced view of the way the world was. MA was interesting for me. Out of an all-girls school, all-girls college, went into a co-ed. I had some lovely, lovely experiences, lovely, lovely friends. And I actually think studying in India doesn't teach you what we've talked about documentation or research, etc. It's only in the MA, in the post-graduation, that you actually begin to do some amount of independent
Reference work
reading,
and
some
things
amount
like
of
that.
independent
Yeah.
research. So it was very interesting for me to see that there's a world out there where this is cherished. You know, we used to do a lot of that. I remember there was an internal and external scheme. External scheme was some 100 marks per paper. And internal scheme was some 20 of some reviews and tests, etc. Of course I chose the harder one. And of course I did that. But all of that actually led to lots of research. Whether it was international trade or econometrics. Again, very new, path-breaking kind of work. Lovely professors from the Bombay University, I have to say. And I grew as a person.
Yeah.
No regrets, really. So I went right back and I did...
That is real education, where you grow as a person
Yes.
and not as a student for marks.
I think so.
Isn't it?
I think so.
Today, I think the emphasis is more on what's your percentage? Kitna deti hai? Like that
Yeah.
question. Kitna marks hai?
Yeah.
No?
You know,
How much you have
again,
learned?
I
Nobody
attribute
says.
that to the kind of upbringing we've had. We were never... thank goodness for that, really. We were never asked how many marks we had, and we were just asked, did we do our best?
That is because, Anju, today it's just a world of competition. It's
know.
like how many?
I really do feel bad. I'm a mother now, and I see my children, and I stop myself many times from asking the same question. Just
what's your
saying,
marks?
yeah. I mean, what do you do? You know, it is that kind of world, and I keep impressing upon them. Of course, we'll talk about the challenge of kids later. Anyway,
Okay.
so I went back to Sophia College, where I did my social communications media course, and it was a very, very intensive 1-year course where we did journalism, the ethics of journalism. We had P. Sainath as my professor, in fact.
Ethics of journalism.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, which is why I have a very strong view on what is happening in India today in terms of journalism.
Okay.
So we did PR, we did photography, we did television, we did films. Another beautiful year where I think my vision grew from blinkered, economics and academics to almost like a 360 to, oh my God, I'm discovering the world now.
Yeah.
Because the teachers in film and the teachers in television are not so much the professor who's facilitating that subject, but really a body of work that has been done by lots and lots of people. So we mentioned Marshall McLuhan, but then filmmakers from Satyajit Ray to French cinema to European cinema to Japanese cinema,
Even now they do all that
Kawasaki.
in
Oh yes,
Safas?
oh yes. Akira Kurosawa. It really, that's when I sat down and said, oh my gosh, there is so much to learn. And I think my I call myself student for life. I really do. And I think that's where I really, really figured out that you can never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't learn it all.
See, right now I learned so much from you. I hadn't even heard some of the names.
Yeah. I think I said Kawasaki instead of Kurosawa, so I must correct that. Anyway.
It doesn't matter because I don't know either Kawasaki or Kurosawa. Okay, then what did you do?
I through the year there were some very definite choices that we had to make. What we had to do was a 1 month like an internship program after our course, and then we got our diploma. And you could choose any of the subjects that I talked about. So a lot of the girls went and did PR, a lot of them did advertising. It's always an exciting time to be in advertising. I somehow, I have to confess, I have a chip on my shoulder about advertising. I didn't want to do advertising. I didn't want to be told to sell a cream or to sell something else. I wanted something which had more dum in
Individuality.
More dum in it, really.
Yeah.
More substance, more content. Television was a nascent medium. I'm talking about 92, 93. Nascent medium, still building its own idiom, still building its own parameters. The shift from
Only
Doordarshan
yes.
to satellite medium was happening. So I've seen that shift through my decade of television. Sorry. And it was an exciting time. You were head pune to the producer and director all rolled into one. Because you were, short of running the tape on my fingers, I've done it all. Literally done it all. But therefore, so exciting. What exciting times they were, and so much learning. So much learning. So that's what I did. I went to a company called Plus Channel, which was run by my mentor, Amit Khanna, and a couple of other directors also. Mahesh Bhatt happened to join in later also. So we had 3 streams of work. We had your, what do you call it? In fact, we used to produce videos for the first 6 months that I was in that, the Lehre concept. So we used to have Business Plus, People Plus, and Bollywood Plus.
Okay.
So 3 streams. So there was films, and there was your page 3 variety, your sort of social events, and we had Business Plus. I chose to do business because
You had your economics background.
Well, yes and no. Page 3 did not attract me.
you?
Bollywood, I had no interest in. Peers of mine from the time that we joined the same company are now directors of films, are now executive
If
producers.
you move from there,
That's my
if
point.
you move from
are now
there.
executive producers of the largest TRP programs in the country, have moved abroad and won fabulous accolades for the kind of creative work that they have done. So when I say don't be judgmental, I mean, everyone has had a career path, and if it started with film journalism, so be it. So be it. It didn't attract me. I've done my fair share, I have to say. I've done, that's what I said. In television, even though I was a business journalist, if that guy who was covering somebody was not ready at that time and my crew was with me, they would just say, Anju, can you please go and ask these 7 questions and come back? You really did everything that you could do. And I've done my fair share. I remember it was Ashiki, and there was, the stars of Ashiki had to be interviewed. And oh my God, we were so kicked. Of course, they're nowhere there now, unfortunately.
That youngster, what was his name?
Rahul Roy.
Yeah, Rahul Roy. You don't hear of him now,
We don't
right?
hear of him. I remember in fact, this
And
was
that
during
movie was a big hit.
during our internship days, and we were just so excited about meeting him. And then we met him.
And we said, they look fantastic on the screen.
They're nice guys, but I think, filmmaking is narcissistic. You have to be all about yourself. And so they are.
Anju, anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure even when you're making, you have to be all about yourself.
You have to.
Isn't it?
So my point is, it's very one-dimensional when you're interviewing someone about their role and their script and their whatever, because that's what it is. It's just you're not finding out what they're doing in their lives otherwise, and unless you broaden the horizon of communications, even with the film actors and the producers and the directors, you get a very one-dimensional view of what they're doing, and I think that remains till today in film journalism, which is quite sad, really.
Unless you're like somebody like Khalid Mohammed.
That's different.
Critique
See, but then he was, he made a name for himself.
Yeah.
A dear friend of mine, Deepa Gehlot,
Deepa
writes,
Gehlot, she was my student. I was to
Really?
teach journalism in Bombay.
Really?
She was one of my
So
students.
she's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
She does some fabulous work. In fact, she's moved into theatre now. She organizes.
There's Bhavna Somaya, who's done
So you
biographies.
Having poo-pooed it, the whole thing.
And Shobha
between
Day
us.
moved out from Stardust, and
Yes.
look at her today. She's in Bangalore Literature
Yes. So
Forum.
everyone's
Jaipur.
made a name for themselves,
Yes.
and I think that there's place for everyone to do what they're doing, really, and there's a market for that.
India is a big country with
is.
a lot of takers for a lot of things, isn't it?
It is, yes.
And-
So I went on to do business journalism. That is what I chose for myself.
Okay.
I liked the fact that I could talk to decision makers. I liked the fact that I spoke with people with vision. I like the fact that I, in my view, spoke to people who would make a change and an economic change in a country that had just realized
This is for the
liberalization.
television.
Yes.
This is for the
This is
television.
for
You're
television.
talking about electronic media.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally. What happened next? So very rich body of work, those 10 years also. Spoke to lots and lots of interesting people, almost all the CEOs. I used to cover the stock exchange. So
You went there with that mic and asked them.
Oh
what do you
yes,
think?
and this was the time at the pit. This was
Okay.
still not electronic stock market. This is at the time
Yeah,
where they used to
correct.
do all the signs with their hands and
I
all in
wonder
the
what
pit.
it means, but
yeah.
okay.
So did all of that. So every Thursday or Friday I was in the pit. I used to be with the RBI. With all the credit policies, monetary policies. Used to be interviewing the CEOs. I've interviewed Ratan Tata, Nasli Wadia, Aditya Birla before he died. In fact, a lot of people. My crowning glory, if I may call it, was actually came to me very, very early. I covered Harshad Mehta.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so I was the first electronic medium journalist to get an interview with him, and then
Where is he now?
He died.
He did?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So ultimately, whatever you do, whatever you earn, whatever name and fame, you die.
Yeah, totally.
And you
Hopefully
wonder,
leave
why did
something
you work?
nice behind. Yes.
But you talked about
Yes.
legacy. He's left
Yeah.
behind a legacy.
Yeah, well, some very important changes took place in
The stock exchange,
market, thanks to his wrongdoings, or,
People lost
or like
money,
he used to
people made
call all the
money.
loopholes that he used. Yeah, but that's what used to really give me a buzz: meeting people,
Learning from them.
a little bit from them. Asking them questions, learning to question better, learning to get to the point better, learning and coming away with a little bit of knowledge of a slice of life knowledge of what they used to do in that day or in that moment or for that policy that we were talking about. So I really, really enjoyed that. I burnt out.
Naturally.
Totally.
The way you're talking,
I burnt out. So there were days that we wouldn't go home. There were 3-4 days that we wouldn't go home. It was that hectic.
But it's okay at that age. You need to do it.
Oh, it was lovely. I
Isn't
wouldn't
it?
trade it for anything.
Anything, yeah.
For anything. It's made me who I am. It's defined. My work has defined who I am, really. But it was also very, very harsh during the time that the Bombay riots took place. During the time that Babri Masjid, and we had the riots in Bombay.
Okay.
And when the Babri Masjid was
There is at some
attacked.
Nagpada or some place, no? It happened?
A lot of places, actually.
Okay.
Jogeshwari, Nagpur, and also the bomb blasts that happened in March following the year. December and then March was the two big ones for Bombay. Bombay had never seen riots. Bombay had never seen... we used to pride ourselves as a city of being cosmopolitan and right and, doing the right thing, being professional. And suddenly religion became a word that was being bandied around in a city that called itself above and beyond
That is
the
because
boundaries of religion.
Politics, that's all. It's
Totally.
The
we saw
Bombaya
that.
that we are talking about
Yes.
is not concerned about all this. But some of the political parties which came up
it was the
at
agenda.
that time.
It was the agenda, really, at that time. And it was harsh times. We were shooting Bal Thackeray and, I remember going into the masjid in Jogeshwari and we were asked Hindu ho ya Muslim ho. And there were swords and there were all kinds of things. And then we said, press hai. And they said, all right, then you can go in.
Okay, so you have no religion if
yeah,
you're
well, the
press.
press is not supposed to have a religion, I believe. And I got married. I met my man through work actually.
Okay.
And we knew each other for 3 or 4 years. We decided to get married, Ketav. And Ketav had decided to try his hand at a job in Bangalore. He's in the IT sector. And I was already sort of now beginning to wonder what next. Because I thought I had done a lot and I didn't know where my career was going from then. So I think that little churning and thinking had begun in me of what do I want to do next.
Why does this happen? Is it doing too much of one thing? Is it that restlessness?
No. I also doing too much of one thing. The fact that you meet different people every day, nothing is boring. You don't know who you're meeting the next day.
Correct.
You don't know who you're interviewing the next day. But I think that relentless pace of television, something has to give. I was ready for a family. I had no time for a family. I was actually ready. I think after my school, my first sabbatical was then. Because I went through school, I went through college, I did tuitions to pay my fees. I sort of educated myself with a lot of help from the family, of course. But, there were tough times growing up. We did that. And then I went straight into work. I hadn't had a break at all. And I was so looking forward to it. I was quite happy to have someone else look after me.
So marriage was a good break, huh? Marriage was a good break.
Marriage was a good break. It was. It was also a turning point, really. It made me think of, is this what I want to do forever? And I left only after 4 years of marriage. I left television, really. Mm-hmm. So Ketav moved to Bangalore 3 months prior to my move. And I said, see if you like it there. And I'll come along later. And then I chucked up my job also and moved to Bangalore with Ketav.
What do you think about this? Where a husband moves and the wife chucks a job and follows the husband?
If it's a decision taken together, I don't think we have any business commenting on it. If the husband is making her chuck it up, more power to him, and dear wife, what are you thinking? I was ready. I was actually completely ready to do something new. So I did move to Bangalore and I did look for interesting projects to do. Bangalore was a dead city for anything to do with media.
When was this?
This was 1999. There was nothing happening here.
1999.
And really, Bombay and Delhi, by their sheer newsworthiness of being financial capitals, political capitals, and entertainment capitals, lend themselves to newsworthiness, if you know what I mean.
Also, there is something like in Bombay, you have the suburban train. People commute a lot. So that's how they had the afternoon and the midday.
Yes.
And the evening news.
Yes.
So,
Bangalore was a sleepy little town when I
there's no
shifted here,
commuting
really.
happening
It was about
then.
14 years ago.
Of course, now it happens.
Yes. And, even though if anything happened, there was a stringer to cover it, really. So a lot of times people looked at my resume and said, if she's this good, why is she willing to do this little? So I was sort of caught in that catch-22 situation of perhaps being overqualified for a market that was not ready for my experience.
Yeah. And here I think at that time there was only Deccan Herald and Times of India. I was just trying to make it.
But they were papers.
Hindu
Business
was there.
Standard was, of course, out of here. In fact, I worked with TN9 very, very closely. He taught me journalism and I taught him television. He was he was our presenter and our editor-in-chief. At Plus Channels. I worked with TN9 and also very, very closely. But so I didn't know what to do. And then soon Ketav said we're off to Boston because his job was taking him to Boston. That was lovely. We spent a year there and I came back pregnant.
What's with the B word there? There is Bombay, there is Bangalore, and now there is Boston.
The 3 Bs, really. But I loved it. I loved America.
Of course.
I loved the dignity of labor that America offers. I was very lonely, but America was a great experience. But Ketav and I knew for sure that we would be coming back.
So how long did you live there?
Just a year.
Oh,
only a year.
Year is fun. It's like a holiday.
Yeah, it was like a holiday. And I came back pregnant, so I was ready.
That was a real holiday.
It was a real holiday.
Anju, that means you never keep quiet. You're always busy.
I'm always busy. Gosh. I'm busy in my head. There's a song playing in my head all the time. Yeah. So we came back and the sabbatical that I thought would be for a little while and then maybe a year, which was Boston, then maybe a little more, now became a full-fledged mommyhood.
The fourth B baby.
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
And not in quick succession, but one after the other, I had 2 kids. So for about 6 years, I was out of work commission, so to speak. I used to do a little bit here, a little bit there.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, let's come to you started to work again.
So I started to work again as my kids started to grow up, and I think the day my daughter went into full day school is the day I moved into office. So that's what I did. I actually went into the IIMB and I did the Women Entrepreneurship Program.
Okay.
I was very sure that I wanted to start testing my wings, so to speak, in that year.
To be on your own.
To be on my own. Did I have it in me? My husband consequently became a entrepreneur. He has been for the last 13 years now.
Okay.
He runs a company called United Softwares, and that's what he does.
But that's in his own core competence about IT.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if I had it in me to be an entrepreneur. I had only worked for someone so long. My second innings was an innings where I didn't have to go out and earn my bread and butter.
That's a big thing.
I had the luxury of the husband doing that. I had the luxury of choosing any which way I wanted to go with my work. I had the luxury of having my own timings. I had the luxury of being my own boss. I had the limitations that I now had 2 children. I had the limitation, and I'm saying quote unquote limitation because for me there were lots of non-negotiables on my second coming into work.
Yeah.
I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a intelligent
Homemaker.
woman, I was a homemaker. I wanted some stimulation of the mind, and that is why I was coming into work, and it was not for bread and butter.
Yeah.
So it had to be good. And that's what I did. I moved into office.
Okay.
And I set up office and I hired a couple of people and I said, all right, we're going to go look for our projects.
All right.
So that's what we did. We now service Microsoft, ICICI, Securities, Intel, IIMB.
That's a big list.
FFE, which is Foundation for Excellence, which is an NGO. Akshara Foundation, a little bit of work for them. Did a little bit of work for Akshay Patra. And I do all the videos now officially for
So do you have your own
Inventor
equipment,
Academy.
like the digital cameras and all that you have?
Or do you
hire them?
No, you need to hire them because unless you're a production house that produces something every day, it makes no sense to put that kind of investment in cameras, etc. Having said that, we also do live streaming of events where we take your message out to a larger audience than the one in your room or to a geographically scattered audience. And all of that equipment is owned by us because that requires a particular quality and you need to be able to be very confident that you can deliver that. And we work for SAP.
Was it easy for you to get people to work with you? Because like you say, Bangalore is not geared to be an entertainment industry.
See, but that's the thing. I think there's a lot of talent here. It's unpolished.
Absolutely.
You need to polish it.
Yes.
And I was more than happy to
do that.
I have led teams of reporters and of cameramen, etc. in the past, and I that was a no-brainer for me. The fact that I could make it work was a no-brainer. The fact that we had to get our business was the tough one.
And your business is from Bangalore?
I had not gone out and got business earlier.
No, but have you got business in Bangalore, or do you get it from outside and do it?
Mostly Bangalore.
Okay, that's
mostly
good.
Bangalore, but Bombay also. Some Delhi. Yes, even Muscat. We go and do all the TEDx in Muscat all the time. So that is what I do now, Chaya. I am a producer, director, writer, script writer, voiceover artist,
everything
editor,
rolled into one.
Packager. I do business development for my company. We're a very small team of about 4 or 5 that I have hired. We work together. It's a great synergistic kind of team. One is an editor. He's also my assistant director. There are a couple of other assistant directors. But like you asked, do I own the equipment and do I have cameramen, etc. on roll? No, because the nature of my work is such. If you have to do work for an NGO, for example, you need the sensibilities of a cameraman and a texture of shooting that is very different from, say, an interview with Steve Ballmer, which we've also done.
Okay.
So you choose your crew according to your project. And I think you'll agree with that, right? I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to sort of get domain knowledge and what you want to do. Lighting, for example.
Exactly.
I would choose a very different kind of lighting for an interview versus, for an event where you don't light up the event. The event is lit up and you go and do a coverage shoot. So
I guess to that extent, radio is much simpler.
Yeah.
So this is what I think we need to communicate to our listeners, that whatever you're doing, document it.
Please.
And today you have the digitized way, like even Facebook is one way of documenting.
Totally.
On your timeline.
However you like it, if you're good at photography. And today really, you can make a film on a phone. Choose your story, choose what you want to say. The medium doesn't matter. Beyond a point, if your story is engaging enough, is compelling enough, it doesn't matter if there was a camera shake.
There's some takeaway for everybody from everything, isn't it? And I would like to say the takeaway from this show that we are doing is that what you're saying, it's so important to leave behind a legacy other than money and jewelry and property.
And for companies, what did you stand for? For companies, for NGOs, the NGOs, they come to me and say, will you do a fundraiser for us? Will you give us, talk about our stories, do a testimonial for us? And I'm more than happy. I don't even charge my NGOs for the work that I do, really. That's my CSR, by the way, for all the NGOs that I work
why
for.
not?
I don't charge them. And I actually think that they are the ones who need to tell their story the most.
People should document their lives. Like you said, everyone has a story. Isn't it?
Absolutely.
Everyone should, either if they're good at writing, they should write their autobiography, because there's a story in everyone's life. Or if they have something that they are doing which is good, like Chai with Lakshmi, she's doing one really good work with it. I'm so happy to say that today women are doing, like Archana Doshi doing her Archana's Kitchen. You're doing what you're doing. We are doing what we are doing. I think we women are good storytellers. What do you say?
I think we are, and I'm hoping actually to bit by bit change everyone into a storyteller. Everyone I meet, I tell them how to tell their story better.
Thank you so much, Anju, for your sharing your life. I know it's a different life, like you just now said. Thank you so much for sharing it on It's My Life with me.